There's a Treasury bond move that lets a married couple put $25,000 a year into a government-backed account that's guaranteed to beat inflation, earns interest the federal government protects from every state and local tax, and lets you defer every penny of that gain until you're ready to collect completely legally, and your bank will never walk you through it. Because if they did, you'd stop needing them. Right now, millions of Americans are sitting in savings accounts earning 4, maybe 4.5%. They feel okay about that. Inflation's running around 3%, so they think they're winning. But they're paying income tax on every dollar of that interest, federal, state, local. After taxes, that 4.5% might land at 2.8% in real purchasing power. You're barely treading water. Meanwhile, there is a government-backed instrument issued by the United States Treasury that was designed specifically to solve that problem. Most people have never bought one. It's called a Series I savings bond, I-bond for short. The U.S. Treasury issues it directly. You don't need a broker, a financial advisor, or a brokerage account. You buy it at TreasuryDirect.gov. The interest rate on an I-bond resets every 6 months based on the official inflation index, the CPI. When inflation is high, the rate goes high. When inflation drops, the rate adjusts. But here's what matters: you never lose principal. If inflation goes negative, which almost never happens, the rate floors at 0. You don't go backward. And the interest compounds inside the account, tax deferred. No federal tax until you cash out. And here's where it gets interesting: no state or local tax, ever. The federal government prohibits states from touching it. Here's how it works. You go to TreasuryDirect.gov, the Treasury's own website. No fees. You open an account and buy up to $10,000 per person per calendar year. A married couple gets $20,000. If you're expecting a tax refund, you can redirect up to $5,000 of it straight into I-bonds using IRS Form 8888. That's $25,000 in a single year per household. Now the dollar example. You put in $10,000 when the I-bond rate is 5.27%, exactly where it sat in 2023. After 1 year, you've earned $527 in interest. You owe 0 state tax on that. If you live in California, you just saved $70 compared to the same return sitting in a CD. But you also owe 0 federal tax yet. That $527 stays in the account. Compounds. Next year, interest calculates off $10,527. The year after, higher again. Hold it for 20 years and that $10,000, growing at a guaranteed inflation-adjusted rate, becomes a meaningfully different number. And you choose when to pay the federal tax. Here's who already knows this: accountants, estate attorneys, people who have spent careers inside the tax code. They max out their I-bond purchases every January. They do it for their spouses. They do it for their kids' college funds, because there's a second provision almost nobody knows. If you use I-bond proceeds to pay qualified higher education expenses and your income falls below a certain threshold, that interest is completely excluded from federal income tax. Not deferred. Gone. The banks don't explain this because Treasury Direct is a direct channel. No middleman, no advisory fee, no commission. The entire financial incentive to tell you about it is absent, so nobody does. Now the caveats. You can't touch the money for 12 months after you buy, it's locked. Redeem before 5 years and you forfeit the last 3 months of interest. That's the penalty. Not principal, interest. And the $10,000 per person annual cap means this isn't a vehicle for moving millions. It's a slow, disciplined build. But that's exactly why the people who use it treat it as one piece of a larger structure. On its own, it's a near-zero risk, inflation-matching, tax-advantaged account that requires no advisor, no brokerage, and no one's permission to open. The real question isn't why you've never done this. It's why no one showed it to you. This information is public. It lives on the Treasury's own website. The IRS codified the education exclusion in the tax code decades ago. But between the school system that never covered investing, the bank that earns nothing if you move money to Treasury Direct, and the advisor who has no incentive to point you there, the instruction never arrived. and I-bonds are just the first layer. There's a related Treasury instrument, TIPS, that does something similar but works in real time, trades on the open market, and can be liquidated before that 5-year window closes. That's the next file.